Hey everybody, I am on the line right now with the current Impact Wrestling Knockouts champion, Deonna Purrazzo. She has a big match coming up at Impact's Rebellion pay-per-view next weekend. We're going to get into that, her opponent, everything she's been up to in the meantime. First, I'll ask, how you doing today?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. As I mentioned, you have a match at Rebellion with Tennille Dashwood. Uh, it's been all about her. She's not shy about saying that, but I noticed something on her new show last night. She made some great points. She took some credit for being the influence. Uh, as fans will know, she was in NXT. She started the Revolution, but she said she never won the title. And it seems like, maybe facing you, she has a renewed energy or sense of purpose. How are you feeling about facing her in general, and maybe how are you feeling about facing her after hearing her? Seems like she has a new focus.
You know what? I hope she has a new focus. I do because, Rebellion is shaping up to be one of the biggest pay-per-views ever for Impact, if not of this year. So, the way she won the number one contendership, if that's any indication of what she brings to the table at Rebellion, which I don't necessarily think it is, then I'm in for an easy night. But the Tennille Dashwood of 4 years ago, of 5 years ago, that helped start the women's evolution and, reshape modern women's wrestling, I want that Tennille Dashwood at Rebellion. I've been begging for competition for, the last few months. And if Tennille is what she says she is and one of the best there is to offer, then, I want her to show up that way.
Yeah, I was listening to that last night, and I'm just sitting there thinking, like, she makes some great points. Like, you can cheer or boo her as a character, but when you strike that chord that's taking from real life, I feel like that adds a little bit, and maybe people will take her seriously when she's going up against a competitor like yourself. But do you feel like, as much credit as she deserves for that era of bringing women's wrestling up, she still has to come up to your level and what you've been able to do in the past year for the Impact Wrestling Knockouts division?
Yeah, I think everyone's career has ebbs and flows to it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what I was doing, a year and a half ago is pales in comparison to what I'm doing now, right? But Tennille hasn't been the most successful in Impact Wrestling, and I don't think that any great competitor will just stand on, past accomplishments alone. She has to bring it to the table in the next 2 weeks. And I'm sure she will, but, I don't really know what to anticipate coming from her because she hasn't, shown us all that she can do the last few months. She's been more about her social media, and she's been more about, her influence on Instagram and on Twitter. And that's great because that's how we garner our following and our interest. But at the end of the day, at Rebellion, you're in a knockout championship match with a 2-time knockout champion. And those past accomplishments and that following does nothing when you're standing across the ring from me.
She has another test in front of her next week before she even gets there. She has to face Susan, who has, I would say, been an important part of your success. Like, where do you, how much credit do you give her? Because there's been some criticism from fans about, getting help from her and Kimberly as far as, like, on television, but on a real level, how much have they helped you grow and explore your character? Because you've, for the most part, been a solo act, but now you have these two to kind of feed off of and try to see what works, what doesn't, and it really does give you a new dynamic.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. That I've been a solo act like my whole life, and I tried to be a tag team, and still that was like a little foreign to me. And now to have these characters to bounce off of, and Kim is so dynamic, and then Susan has all this change, whether it's Susan or Sue, or Susie. When I first got to Impact, being able to interact character races in terms of working with communities. They can do a little creative characters in the film, and Sue has all this and Susie. It allows me to like interact with these people on a weekly basis in my character development more than just being, the wrestler.
Mm-hmm. Now, when we last spoke, there was still talk about character building and trying to find who the Virtuosa was, and that talk's really died down, where now it's been about you're the best, you're killing it, you're winning awards and still champion. Do you find any relief in not having to have that be the first or second question that people ask you, and now it's just, you get to say, here's what I've been talking about the whole time?
Yeah, a little bit. I think that, educating your audience is important. And, in the last, 6 months, there's been so many new eyes, partnership, AEW. So, reintroducing that little by little to new eyes, I think is always going to be important. But the fact that it's not the only question people have, well, what does the Virtuosa mean? It is so fulfilling to me, because I've spent so many years trying to explain it. And I think that, just the natural progression of character development, you introduce something, and then, I've been at Impact for almost a year now. So I'm slowly getting to show new traits and a new identity, which, comes from storylines and that character development itself. So, I'm so happy that I'm just giving the definition of a virtuosa anymore, that people just get it and accept it for what it is and understand it and appreciate who I am in my wrestling.
Before I get to my next question, I just want to mention, if people still do want a really, really, some good insight on your road to Impact Wrestling, there's a really good article on Yahoo Sports that you got to write. It's called In Her Own Words, Deonna Purrazzo's Road to Wrestling Stardom. It's very easy to find, but that I really enjoyed reading. It gave a new perspective on getting to Impact, the road, everything you went through before that. So I will mention that's a really, really good article worth checking out. But your last opponent was Jazz. She had a retirement ceremony last night. You weren't a part of it, but what was it like being able to do the honor for Jazz, so to speak, and send her on her way out of Impact?
On a personal level, that kind of meant everything to me, that I was being, trusted to have, a match worthy of putting her career on the line. And I think we were able to do that. So, personally, I'm super proud of what we put out there at Hardcore Justice. And the fact that, in fact, Jazz's last match, that I was able to have it with her. And, everything I said in the weeks leading up to it, of course was, in character, but there was some truth to that. I watched women like Jazz growing up and seeing that they were pushing for women's wrestling to be more. And that is why my dream was to help further that and to push the envelope for women's wrestling and to allow it to become what it is today, which is respected. So, to be in the ring with her, to be able to share the ring with someone like ODB, that's a little girl's dream come true. So it was super special to me on a personal level. But then, as a character, I think that, again, it's I'm getting away from necessarily the Virtuosa, and I'm finding new layers to who, the greatest women's wrestler is. And, that's someone that can defeat anyone from any generation, from any era. So I think defeating Jazz and defeating OGB has kind of let me tap into that a little bit more.
Another name from the Knockouts history, Taylor Wilde. We finally got confirmation that it is her. Impact's going to get Wilde. Mm-hmm. She's finally back. What seemed like, a long time because of the pandemic, her return was put off, but you kind of gave her a nice little intro last night and said, "Welcome to the age of the Virtuosa." Is not to look past Rebellion, but are you looking forward to doing something on screen with her and kind of capturing the same kind of magic?
Yeah, absolutely. Just as like an advocate for women's wrestling, I want there to be as many women on our Knockouts roster as there is men on the men's roster, right? I want us to flourish and to grow and to constantly be having new women thrown into the mix. And someone like Taylor Wilde, who has a lineage within Impact already, adds so much to our division just by her presence alone, let alone what she brings to the table in the ring. So I'm so excited personally, but the Virtuosa wants to be the best. And I retired Yaz. We haven't seen ODB much since I defeated her. So if Taylor Wilde wants to be next in line for the career killer, I say bring her on.
I like the fire. I'm sure that'll give her some extra motivation. But yeah, I'm glad to see her back. I've talked to her a couple times over the past year, and when she was starting her podcast, and it's really cool to kind of follow her journey back, and now to see it with the vignettes, and it's. I think it's going to be a fun ride. I hope we get to see you do something on air. What else are you looking forward to for the rest of the year, if it's not too big picture? Like you just mentioned, you want to see some more talent on the roster. There's, I'm sure, plenty of names out there that would love a shot at that. Anybody in particular you'd like to get to work with, whether they're already on the roster or you think would be a really good addition to, filling out your vision for how deep the roster can go?
Yeah, I think especially since we have a Knockouts Tag Team Championships now, having more talent to continue to make both championships mine, the Knockouts Championships and the Tag Team Championships consistently relevant and on pay-per-views and in storylines and have people really invested in all three champions. I think we need to continue to grow. And I definitely foresee that happening. But, on the top of my list, I've said this before, that I'd love for Impact to bring in is Jody Threat, is Hyen and Roxy, who I actually just got to wrestle for the first time over Mania weekend. And it was for the Knockouts Championship, so that was really cool. I love the Sea Stars and Willow Nightingale. So those are just some off the top of my head this morning that I can think about. But I know there's like a lot of hungry, independent women out there that want an opportunity to benefit from an opportunity, and our division 100% could benefit from having some of them too. So those are just a few women that I can think of right now. But I think my big picture goal at this point, I think I've held the Knockouts Championship, for like 150 some odd days at this point. So, we might as well go for Taya Valkyrie's, her longest reign, which was 300 and some odd days. But I think that at this point, I'm halfway there. I can do it.
I think you're well within reach of doing that. I don't remember the exact amount of days either, but I wanted to say real quick that the match you were talking about was for New Texas Pro Wrestling. You could check it out. It's available in full on YouTube. And that leads me into my closing question. I usually do it started as kind of like a pandemic playlist, a watch list. Are there any matches that you've particularly either been a part of that you really want to show some love, or one that you happen to watch at the tapings that people should give a second chance? Any that you would recommend?
Just from an Impact standpoint, I have enjoyed so much what we're doing with the X Division right now, and watching even last night's episode, TJP and Josh Alexander, they've kind of had like a multitude of matches the last couple of weeks, and watching them all is just kind of inspiring to me. In terms of women's wrestling, I think my favorite match of mine is me versus Madison Eagles in a submission match at Shimmer. I think it was April of 2018. And we had, two series, one WrestleMania weekend in New Orleans, and then the following week at Shimmer. And both of those were just incredible learning experiences and, stuff I go back and watch and take things from. So those two matches for sure, off the top of my head.
I will also vouch for the X Division match. I was sitting there thinking, man, this is not your typical X Division match, but I'm really enjoying the reversals and, like the chain wrestling. Very impressed with that match last night. So people could check it out. Sure, find some of the matches you're talking about from your own career on YouTube. And as I said, the match with Roxy, I know, is available on New Texas YouTube. I did check. You're at 152 days and counting. Taya is at 377, so within reach. Still a little longer, but in 9 more days, you have a match with Tenille Dashwood. We'll wait and see if the streak continues, but you sound confident enough that it's going to, and you're going to inch closer to 377. So, guys, check out Impact's Rebellion pay-per-view next weekend. It's Sunday, April 25th. And Deonna, thanks very much for your time today.